Ever just fantasize about, waking up, grabbing your coffee, and bam, there it is. A polished travel guide ready to hit the shelves, all without you lifting a finger. Well, not exactly. But that's the gist of this FireStarter AI funnel meets program that we're going to unpack today. They claim to use AI to, well, basically do just that. So is this AI thing the real deal? And like, what's in it for you? Even if you're not, rushing to publish a travel guide right this second, let's jump in. Okay, so the Firestart AI thing, it's all about, you guessed it, AI, and using it to make these travel guides specifically, get this, around like mini adventures for families. And they give you like templates and prompts, the whole 9 yards. Their big thing is that it's super done for you, meaning the AI is doing the heavy lifting. So you could, theoretically, use this to create guides for cities all over the place and maybe, just maybe, build a passive income stream on Amazon's KDP platform, where you self-publish. The thing that really stood out to me, it's that they're going niche, focusing on family travel. They even showed off this 131-page guide for Shinjuku, Tokyo, all AI generated, supposedly. We're not just talking like basic tourist traps. Think like themed itineraries for families, activity ideas, and get this, even coloring pages for the kids, all done by AI.
And strategically, that's a really smart move. Travel and tourism, they're having a major comeback since, and the report actually cited these figures from the World Travel and Tourist Council. They're saying that whole sector is going to be raking in something like $11 trillion globally just this year. So you've got travel demand going through the roof, and then they tap into the family market on top of that. It's like that classic riches in the niches idea. So instead of trying to be everything to everyone, they're laser focused. You pick a city, you pick a traveler, in this case families, and boom, it's like you've got a recipe for standing out in the travel guide world. You know what I mean?
Totally. But how does this whole AI magic act actually work? Because reading the report, it almost sounds too easy, like plug in a few words and boom, instant travel guide. Is it really that simple? Well, they break it down into these steps, and it all comes down to like AI prompts that you feed into something, like ChatGPT. So imagine typing in something like, create a one-day itinerary for families in, say, Shinjuku, Tokyo, but make it about Japanese mythology. So the AI then takes that and just scours the web, and it finds all those like must-see spots, kid-friendly places to grab a bite, maybe even digs up some local legends or whatever, and spits out an itinerary. Kind of wild, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting how it uses those prompts, those few words you give it, as like a jumping off point, and then just goes to town, pulling from all this data to build out these different sections of the guide. Remember that Shinjuku one we were talking about, the 131 pager? That's supposed to be a real example of this in action, which is, I mean, when you think about it, kind of mind-blowing.
No kidding. But
Yeah.
hold your horses before we all quit our day jobs and become like digital nomad travel guide moguls. Big question. Is this too good to be true? Even the report had some FAQs, people wondering if the stuff the AI comes up with is even accurate.
Yeah, that's always the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, as cool as AI is, let's be real, it's not perfect. It's only as good as the stuff it's been trained on. So yeah, there's always that chance of, inaccuracies sneaking in. You've got to be careful.
It's like they say, garbage in, garbage out, right?
100%. And then there's that whole can of worms about like who actually wrote it and authenticity and all that. The report even mentioned making guides about places you've, well, never actually been to. Now, legally, might be a gray area, but ethically, whole other story. Like, can you really capture the heart of a place if you've never even set foot there? Something to think about.
For sure. It's like just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Right. At the end of the day, AI, it's a tool, just like anything else. It can be used for good or, well, not so good. It's on us, the humans, to, use our judgment and not just blindly trust the robots.
It's not like you just push a button and money starts falling out of the sky, huh?
If only it were that easy. There's more to it. Think of it more like this. AI could make it easier for people who want to write travel guides or just, try their hand at making digital stuff.
Interesting. And speaking of digital stuff, it's not just travel guides they're talking about. The report listed all kinds of books you could whip up using this AI approach.
Yeah.
We're talking cookbooks, coloring books, even journals with like thought-provoking prompts. It's like they're saying, hey, these AI skills, they can take you places.
And that's a really important point. Even if you're not like dreaming of becoming the next Lonely Planet, the skills you pick up messing around with this stuff are super useful. Figuring out how to talk to AI, doing research on specific niches, learning how to format and actually publish a digital product. I mean, those are skills that translate no matter what you end up doing. It's like learning a new language, Even if you don't become a translator, it changes how you see things.
It's like that saying, Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish.
But
The rest.
exactly. These digital skills, they're like the new fishing rod. They're only becoming more and more important no matter what's on your resume.
So we've covered a lot. We talked about how this AI thing supposedly works, the good, the bad, and even the businessy side of it all. But like, what does it all mean for the folks listening? What's the takeaway here?
Now there's the million-dollar question. I think the main thing is just realizing that AI, it's changing the game for how we create stuff. And fast. Travel, that's just one example, but it's happening everywhere. Writing, music, art, you name it.
It's exciting, but also like kind of scary how quickly things are changing,
All
right?
right. Tell me about it. But like we were saying before, it's not about being scared of the robots. It's about, learning how to work with them, how to adapt.
So true. So for those listening who are, curious about this AI stuff and maybe even thinking about checking out FireStarter AI, what advice would you give them?
Ooh, good question. I'd say first things first, go in with an open mind. Don't be afraid to poke around, play with different AI tools, see what they can do. Like, just have fun with it.
That's the spirit. Experiment. See how you can work this stuff into what you're already doing.
Exactly. And while you're experimenting, remember, AI is a tool. It's not here to replace you. It can help you come up with ideas, get stuff done faster, but at the end of the day, you bring the magic, your own point of view, your creativity.
Finding that balance between using the tech and staying true to yourself, that's key.
Totally. Oh, and one last thing, never stop learning. This AI world, it moves fast. So stay curious, keep exploring, keep your skills sharp.
Love it. Be curious and stay informed. But most importantly, don't be afraid to like dive in and experiment.
Yeah, no, for sure. It really does feel like AI could like level up the creative process. Instead of replacing us, it just gives us new tools to work with.
Totally. It's like it takes care of the grunt work, but the human touch, that's what makes it sing, your unique voice. That's what people connect with. Which brings us back to that big question for the beginning. Is this AI magic thing legit? Can you really just like snap your fingers and get a travel guide? No sweat.
Honestly, it's kind of both. Like, the technology is definitely there. And the way they lay it all out, it really does seem doable, even if you're not a tech whiz or anything. But, and there's always a but, right? Your mileage may vary because, like we were talking about, it all depends on the information the AI has been fed. And then there's that whole ethics thing. So yeah, not a magic bullet, but a super powerful tool for sure, if you use it right.
Like having a superpowered research assistant. They can gather all the info, get it organized, but you're still the one calling the shots, making sure it's accurate, adding your own personal touch, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's all about like teamwork. You and the AI working together.
Speaking of teamwork, the program really pushed this idea of passive income. Like you make these guides, you put them up on Amazon KDP, and the money just rolls in. They even mentioned like putting ads in the guides too.
It's a good point, though. Even with all this fancy AI stuff, you got to know the basics of business. Marketing, finding your audience, all that jazz. That stuff still matters.
Right. It's not enough to just make something. You gotta know how to sell it too.
100%. No shortcuts there, unfortunately.
So we've looked at how this AI thing works, the good, the bad, the money stuff. But for the people listening, what's the bottom line? Why should they care?
The million-dollar question. What it all boils down to, I think, is this. AI, it's changing how we create things fast. Travel's just the tip of the iceberg, really. It's happening everywhere.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you actually stop and think about it.
No kidding. And yeah, it can be a little intimidating, but like we talked about, it's not about being afraid of the tech. It's about figuring out how to use it to your advantage.
Adapt or die, right?
Well, not die, maybe, but, get left behind. And nobody wants that.
So for our listeners who are like, okay, this is cool and all, but what does it mean for me? What advice would you give them?
I would say don't be afraid to just dive in, play around, try different things, get a feel for what AI can do.
It really is like a whole new world opening up, isn't it? And you'll get to like choose our own adventure.
Totally. And speaking of adventures, this thing goes way beyond travel guides, which is easy to forget. Remember that whole list of other book ideas? Cookbooks, those adult coloring books everyone's crazy about, even journals with, like, writing prompts.
Right. It's easy to get stuck on the travel thing, but it's really about like using AI to make anything, no matter what you're into.
Exactly. Think of this whole program as like AI 101 for, creators. Doesn't matter if you're like Stephen King or just starting out, there's something here for everyone.
It's true. It's like they bottled up some digital entrepreneurship magic or something.
Huh. Not a bad way to put it. And speaking of magic, remember that fantasy we started with? Waking up and boom, there's your finished travel guide ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's not that easy, but it does make you think, Like, what if AI could really help us make our ideas real?
Like having a brainstorming buddy who never sleeps and churns out ideas 24/7.
Right. And never judges your crazy ideas either.
Huh. Did you hear that? So as we wrap things up here, what's like the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Don't be afraid of AI. That's the big one. Think of it as like this powerful tool that can help you do amazing things. The future's here and it's full of possibilities.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. So to everyone listening, we'll leave you with this. What are you going to create? What adventures, real or, from the comfort of your couch, are you going to take? Keep that curiosity alive, folks. And until next time, happy travels.